Imagine owning a small business and wanting to expand it. You apply for a permit and the city says, "Sure, but only if you give up part of your property for public use." Can the government do that? That question reached the U.S. Supreme Court in Dolan versus City of Tigard. Florence Dolan owned a plumbing and electrical supply store in Tigard, Oregon. She wanted to make some improvements to her property. Her plan included expanding the store and paving the parking lot. Because of the size of the project, she needed approval from the city. The city of Tigard said it would approve the permit, but there were conditions. Dolan would have to dedicate part of her property for a public greenway along a nearby creek. She would also have to give up another portion of her land for a public bicycle and pedestrian path. The city argued that the larger store and parking lot could increase traffic and add more runoff into the creek. So, according to the city, requiring the greenway and bike path would help deal with those problems. Welcome to Once Upon a Case, because the law isn't just for lawyers, it's for everyone. But Dolan disagreed. She argued that the city was asking her to give up too much private property just to get permission to expand her business. The dispute eventually reached the United States Supreme Court. The Supreme Court agreed that the city could sometimes place conditions on a building permit, but the court said there had to be a reasonable relationship between the impact of the project and what the city was demanding from the property owner. The court used the phrase, rough proportionality. In simpler terms, the city cannot require a property owner to give up more land than is reasonably connected to the problems caused by the project. In 1994, the Supreme Court ruled 5-4 in favor of Dolan. The court said the city had not shown enough of a connection between Dolan's proposed expansion and the amount of property it wanted her to give up for public use. So what's the lesson? The government can place conditions on development permits, but those conditions cannot go too far. If the government wants you to give up part of your property in exchange for a permit, the demand has to be reasonably related to the effect your project will actually have. In Dolan versus City of Tigard, Florence Dolan won, and the case became an important Supreme Court decision about property rights, building permits, and how far local governments can go when approving development projects. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, watch this case next.